Greetings and salutations, DMs, GMs, referees, judges, game operations directors, and all other varieties of storytellers. This is your DM, Scott, and it's time for another DM Quick Tip.
It's running a session 0 this week on DM Quick Tips. A session 0 is a meeting that the Dungeon Master holds with their players to establish gaming expectations, talk about character creation, and set the tone for the campaign, just to name a few. A lot of different things can be covered in your session 0, such as how to mediate disputes, rules of the house or establishment that you're playing in, who's bringing snacks. It doesn't necessarily have to be all about rules of the game and what the campaign setting is, but those are important. Tasha's Cauldron of Everything has established some formal guidelines for Session 0, but this really isn't necessary. Gamers have been holding Session 0s for 40-plus years. They may not have called it a Session 0, but that's what it was. It's about time Wizards of the Coast finally caught up. Your Session 0 should happen before the campaign starts, but you can revisit it throughout your campaign if there's some issues that need to be addressed. Even if there aren't any issues that need to be addressed, holding a session 0 can be nice just so you can get feedback you may need from your players. You want to periodically check and see if they're enjoying the campaign, what they are enjoying about it, and what, if anything, they are not enjoying about it. The ultimate goal of the session 0 is to get everybody on the same page so there's no surprises down the road. You don't want a player showing up with a half-orc barbarian to your all-elven sorcerers campaign. What makes this especially important is that everybody at the table has a notion of what they're looking for out of the game. If you don't hold a session 0, it can be very difficult for you as the Dungeon Master to deliver to your players. It's not all about the game that you want to play, although what you want is certainly important too. What a session 0 does is ensures that everybody's voice is heard. So here are a few things you should establish at your session 0. What is off limits? This is especially important. Have a very serious discussion with the players about what gaming content is off limits. What makes people uncomfortable? Once that's established, be respectful of it and make sure that the other players at the table are respectful of it as well. Establish where and when you're going to meet. Make sure that everybody knows what the location of the game is and what time the game starts so that everybody can be there on time. There's nothing worse than being in the middle of an important part of your adventure and someone comes strolling through the door 45 minutes late thinking they're 15 minutes early. Make sure that you establish the time very clearly. This is also a good opportunity to discuss what the expectations are if someone can't make it or if someone's going to be late for a gaming session. This is just simple courtesy, but courtesy is still very important. For more on this, go check out DM Bill's quick tip on punctuality. Establish what the expectations are at the table. Is food welcome at the table? What about alcohol? What's your cell phone policy? Do you have one? How much time is going to be taken up to look up a rule? Or will the rule be looked up after the gaming session? Are side conversations a no-no? They should be. Set the tone for the game. Is this a beer and pretzels game? Is it serious, dark and gritty? Will this be a game that is heavy on role-playing and light on combat? Perhaps it's the other way around. What about the movie rating of your game? This is really important too. Are you going Disney with a hard G? Or are you more PG or PG-13? Is there going to be gory violence, profanity, or strong sexual content? This is something that needs to be discussed as well because some players may not be comfortable with that sort of content. And if that is the case, then you may have to modify the tone of your game a little bit. Please be willing to do this sort of thing so you don't lose a player. Some people just aren't comfortable with that sort of content, and that's okay. What about player versus player? Is this the sort of thing that's acceptable at your table, or is it not? Are there any pet peeves you have? If so, just make your players aware of that. And players, make other players aware of any pet peeves that you may have. Dungeons & Dragons is a social contract between friends. The social contract has to be respected, or you run the risk of losing players, not just at your table, but to the game itself. When that occurs, it's a terrible shame. It's important to discuss what the penalties are for players that don't respect the social contract and the boundaries that are outlined during the session 0 so that there's no surprises down the road should these boundaries be crossed. It is an unfortunate thing to have to speak about, but it is necessary so that everybody can enjoy the game and the experience. Session 0 is the ideal time to discuss house rules. These are super important, so don't forget them. Equally as important are the rules of the house if you're playing at someone's home. Now you play, right? No. Session 0 should take place on its own night, and it's really best to play at your next session. Why? Keep that energy high. Give your players time to get excited and put some thought into their characters. Now, there are many ways in which you can run a Session 0, and this is just one way. See you next time in the dojo.